Hey everybody, welcome to Digging Deeper Jazz. So this week I want to talk about melodic diatonic triads. That's a big mouthful. It's not the hardest thing to understand. And this is something you really should be working on. It's fantastic technique on our instrument. So, technique work, that's always a good thing. But it's really something that we could use in our improvisation. So this is something I want to introduce to you or reintroduce to you and focus you on. You're going to get some really good work on this done. And before we even jump into that, I want to let you know I'm doing our third webinar coming up. It's next Wednesday, July 8th, 1 o'clock to 1:45. It's a free webinar, and it's a place where we can interact. You can hear me talk. We get to ask questions. You ask questions, chat in, all that kind of stuff, and talk about anything you want to talk about, whether you have questions about your development, questions about any of the Digging Deeper series, questions about Maryland Summer Jazz, which is coming up. This is our third one. We had about 700 people attend each of the last two. So just right below in the show notes or right above or wherever the show notes are, you can see a link. Click on the link, add your email address to the list. That's it. You're registered. It's free. So I hope you can show up and join us on that. Okay, so let's talk about these melodic diatonic triads. So what I mean by melodic, the difference between melodic intervals and harmonic intervals. Melodic means one note at a time. That's all I can do on this instrument. I can't play chords. I can play melodic or harmonic. When you play two notes at the same time, that's called a harmonic interval. You've created harmony. So look at the first couple examples on the sheet. Example number one is C major. I know you knew that. Okay, but I wrote it out anyway. That's our point of departure. Example number two, what I did is wrote diatonic triads above each. Diatonic just simply means in the key of. So over the note C, I just piled up 2/3 above that. C to E is a third, E to G is a third. 2/3, not major and minor thirds, diatonic thirds in the key of C. Over the note D, DFA. I'm not adding or subtracting any accidentals. It's in the key of C. Over E, over F, etc., etc. So there we have diatonic triads. And so now what I want to do is play those in a melodic fashion. So that's what we have in example number 3. Let me play that for you. So that's simple. I just broke those triads up into a melodic form. I gave it a little melody, I went up the scale, and then I came down for you, not written on the sheet of paper, but I came down with those same notes. So yes, this is really good. This gets us really playing all the way through a given key. Of course, you would then do this in the key of D flat, in the key of F, in the key of A flat, in the key of whatever else, right? All 12 keys. This really gets you around your instrument and understanding the sound. But now we're here talking about jazz. So yeah, great, we've got some technique going on. What this does for us is gives us some organization as we start improvising. So that's what we're always struggling for. A good solo, a good song, a compelling rhythm, a wonderful groove is information organized, right? That's what we do with this stuff. Information, not a problem. Information's everywhere. I can play information. I can play notes on instruments I don't know how to play very well. But organizing it. So this gives us an organized sound. So organized in the key of C major. So let me do this. I'm going to play example number 3 with a track that's cranking out C major. So I'm thinking the Freddie Hubbard song Little Sunflower, the bridge of Little Sunflower, is this, just a whole pile of one chord. So let me play number 3 against C major. All right, so that one simple pattern, and that's what it is. It's a pattern. Patterns are organization. So this simple organization got me playing the C major scale that's called for by that C major chord, but I had information. If I tell a novice improviser to say, hey, here's C major, just improvise, make some stuff up. Wow, that's hard to do. Or it's like, and of course we want good quality, right? When we're improvising, we want quality. That's like putting somebody in the middle of the ocean and say, swim a race. There's too much. Dropping somebody in the middle of a huge field where all it is horizon on all sides. you don't know which way to go. You don't know where the finish line is. You don't know when to stop and start, right? So when we're playing harmony, we need that organization. We need those guardrails on the side. And when we're playing, especially with one tonality like C major for a long time in this Freddie Hubbard tune, there's a lot of shucking and jiving going on. I don't know if you know that term where you live, but fancy word for bullshitting. Yeah, that's exactly it. So these patterns can be helpful because they offer us a way to go, a direction to swim in the ocean, something that we can latch onto a little bit. Now, I'm going to tell you something interesting about these chord changes. When you look above example number 3, you can see all those chord changes. Those chord changes weren't going on with my accompaniment, but I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So what I want to tell you about right now is I'm putting the final touches on Maryland Summer Jazz, the adult online virtual jazz camp that I'm doing this summer. This is our 16th year. For the first time ever, thanks to the COVID virus, we are doing it online. But there's so much that we're going to be able to get done. I've been talking with our faculty members about some of the electives they're going to be presenting, and I can't wait for you to check some of this stuff out. Steve Rochinski, a senior professor from Berklee College of Music, is going to be talking about extreme blues, post-bop blues in the 50s into the 60s, and how the blues got expanded in all sorts of ways, both in form and in harmony. Pretty cool. Amy Shook, one of the finest bass players out there, talking about getting your groove on, how to practice and develop groove with the simple tool of a metronome. And one that I'm super excited about, one of my heroes for decades, Rick Margitza, is going to be talking about how to turn bebop language into your own personal language. These are the kind of electives, 16 different electives. I think I named you 3 of them from our amazing faculty. So check out Maryland Summer Jazz. We've got a handful of spots left, and it starts in just a couple weeks in July. So I hope you can join us for that. Okay, so getting back to this handout now, you're looking at item number 3. And I wrote out C major and D minor and E minor and all these other chord changes. Those aren't the changes that are going by in that order. This lick, this C major lick, would work over any of those chord changes. So what I'm suggesting is I could put on D minor as if we're playing So What, or as if we're playing Mr. PC, or some song that's in a minor key for a long time. You could play this exact pattern. Or I could put on a song like Bolivia or Sister Sadie with a bunch of G7. This exact pattern, because these are the notes from D minor or G7 or B half diminished. So using the strength of modes. So what I'm suggesting is every time you practice one of these patterns, you're practicing 7 different keys and key areas and that sort of thing. It's pretty amazing. Let me just play the exact same thing for you in D minor. I'm playing the notes on the page, but you're going to hear them against D minor. So what do you think? Is that something you could use soloing over Summertime or Blue Bossa or some song in a minor key? Yeah, absolutely you could. So that organization, and here's the thing, I was playing my C major lick over a D minor chord because those keys are related. So now we can expand it from there, and this can turn into, whoever you are out there, whether you're a full-time pro, whether you're a grad student, whether you're teaching at a college somewhere, we can expand this and it becomes really kind of cool and tricky. Look at item number 4. And what I've done is just changed the order of the notes. I've changed the inversion of the triad. So this is what it sounds like unaccompanied. Again, like what a really cool sound. And there's all these other inversions. You don't have to start on the root. You could start on the third. All sorts of things. So let me do this again. I'm going to play that for you in the key of C major, and then I'm going to play it for you in the key of D minor. I'm going to keep playing the exact same notes, but the accompaniment will change. So what do you think? That lick sounds fantastic in the major key, and I played literally the same lick in minor. I didn't even start in a different place. I still started with the C triad, even though I was in D minor. It didn't matter because it was diatonic. So now you can start being a little slicker and start changing. You don't have to have the exact same inversion of every triad. And frankly, you don't have to go up and down the order of triads. You could do it more randomly. So let me play example number 5. Again, I'm going to play it for you in C major, a more improvised version, but I'm still stepping up the triads. You'll be able to see every 2 beats. I'm stepping up C major, D minor, E minor, F, stepping up the diatonic triads. So check this out. This may sound a little more natural or a little more like an improvised solo, less like an obvious pattern. So I wrote a little solo thing, a little melodic idea that was less pattern-like. But you can tell inside there, when you know what to look for, you can totally see what I was thinking as my organizing principle. Then I continued on and I improvised, thinking this triad, now this triad, now this triad. Sometimes I went in order, but sometimes I'd skip. I'm going to think C triad for a bit. Well, I'm going to think F triad now. Well, I'm going to think B half diminished now. So, wow. So if you heard me playing that would sound like I knew what I was doing, because I did. I wasn't just rattling around in C major. I had an organization. So now let me play the exact same thing in D minor. I could play this in 7 other places, but just for time, we'll just do it in these 2, C major, D minor. Okay, I like the way I sounded there. It sounds cool, right? So I was only playing diatonic, not a neighbor tone, like nothing outside the key, yet it sounded interesting. There was shape, there was direction. So that's it. We're always looking for organization in our ideas, and patterns are a wonderful way to get organization, right? And so the last bit of the video here, I've been using sort of the underlying shapes of diatonic triads, but using them more randomly. But I'd still say there was an underlying pattern. So I would love to talk with you about this on the webinar coming up next Wednesday, July 8th, 2020. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York City time, 1 to 1:45. So just register and save a spot, because the spots go very, very quickly. And just, click on the link in the show notes, and nothing more you need to do. And Maryland Summer Jazz. I have so much great stuff coming for you, including all of the super special guests. We have got some of the legends of the music doing presentations at Maryland Summer Jazz, like Peter Erskine from the band Weather Report, like Rick Margitza, Miles Davis's last saxophone player, like Matt Wilson on the drums, Ingrid Jensen, great friend of mine, one of the finest trumpet players in the world, and Wycliffe Gordon, who used to play in Wynton Marsalis's band, and on and on. John Patitucci on the bass. These are the folks that you're going to be working with. So check out Maryland Summer Jazz and play some melodic, diatonic triads. Have a great week.